I definitely want to talk more about the mining thing because I couldn't get my head around it. I can't really connect them.
Yeah. I know we're running out of time, but is there anything you want to like try to quickly cover off on that or?
Yeah, let's do a summary on that because
okay.
I'm clueless in that.
Yeah. So here's my very quick hot take on this, which is that it is something I never knew. It's the wildest things that you learn like piecemeal. I didn't know that the amount of time that it takes to solve the puzzle is exactly 10 minutes.
Huh?
Yeah.
Every puzzle?
Every puzzle. This is what I read. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what and I'm talking about Bitcoin. I don't know how it works for all the other ones, but and so basically what they do is they just throttle. Difficulty is the thing they throttle to make sure that the amount of time is exactly 10 minutes.
And who defines that?
It's a great question. So the amount of time the amount of time it takes to solve the puzzles, if you didn't turn this difficulty knob, then it would be purely dependent on the amount of hash power globally.
Globally, not individually?
Globally, yep. Globally.
But it's only individual.
There's one hash power rate in the whole world.
Oh.
I'm sorry, one difficulty rate.
Who defines that difficulty rate? Like what?
So the difficulty rate, yes, the difficulty rate is solved. It's solved for by the total amount of hash power. So and basically it's the knob you turn to make sure the puzzle takes 10 minutes to solve.
Okay.
I don't know how else to say that, but it's the weirdest thing. But I feel weird even having this.
I feel like if I take the example of Sudoku, then you have different level of settings, and at the start you don't have a lot of people playing it, so you're just easy settings, and everyone try to solve that thing, and the person who solves the last thing to piece everything, you get it. And as people get better, which are the machines getting better, you increase the difficulty to to good, to expert, to super expert, super difficult, and you just know. What I don't get is how do you know that the time to solve things is exactly 10 minutes? Like how do you figure that out? Unless you have the answer already before that.
Yeah, and I think the answer is that you can somehow know how much hash power is being applied to the Bitcoin network at any given moment in time.
Okay, and so, how do we define the hash power?
So hash power, a hash is literally one computer operation.
Yeah.
And so
I've got two ASICs working on it. It's 2 hash power.
Well, I mean, it depends on the hash rate of the chips. So it could be, each chip could be 1.6 gigahash per second, and you've got 2 of them, so therefore you have 3.2 gigahash per second total. Now you add that up over the world, you add it up over the region, it gets to petahash, and then add it over the world, it gets to exahash, and that's how much hash power there is.
So this is defined in the hardware that is defined by the manufacturer in creating those chips, not defined by the miner and the power they give to the chips.
Yeah, the maximum hash rate is defined by the limits of the engineering of the hardware.
Understand.
And maybe the software plays a role too, but I imagine that's pretty standardized, commoditized at this point. You can throttle it down. There are times where people want to reduce the amount of, like, maybe power gets expensive or whatever. And they want to either shut it down or slow it down, or they get paid to use less power. But because of the crazy weather in China, there has been a dearth of hash power. So that means that the difficulty has gone down. And so that means that it takes less hash power to generate a Bitcoin. So, it becomes sort of self-regulating, because if too many people crowd the network,
Yeah.
then too many miners, then the difficulty goes up, and your payment per petahash goes down, and what you get paid per petahash. I mean, per hash, I should say. So a difficulty contract, basically they call it hash power contract, is really a bet on difficulty. And essentially what the miner is willing to do is sell you or me a derivative.
Yeah.
And the derivative basically sets the price at which we buy the Bitcoin that gets output by the mining rig.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I buy this, and it's basically a way for people to buy Bitcoin at a discount. So let's say it's a 15% discount. So let's say Bitcoin's trading at 10,000, and you can buy a hash power contract for 8,500. And so what that means is that you then are basically taking a bet on the difficulty. So and which is in turn is a bet on the aggregate global supply of hash power. So
okay,
I'm probably being more confusing than
backtrack a little. Yeah. This difficulty contract, is it executed by machines? Hash power contract is it executed by machines, or miners get to decide?
It's an over-the-counter derivatives contract that's brokered by humans on telephones. The miners, like, I'm gonna crank out 50 gigahash in the next however X number of days. So I want to sell whatever the Bitcoin equivalent of that is at that moment, price wise, difficulty wise. You just do the math, you figure out what the discount rate is on the Bitcoin, and then somebody buys the Bitcoin at a discount. So like if I could go buy Bitcoin today at 8,500 instead of 10,000, I would probably want to do that. But of course I'm going to be taking some risk, which is that tons of people flood the network, difficulty goes up, and the Bitcoin yield goes down. And so now instead of paying 8,500 with a market price of 10,000, I'm paying 10,500. I'm actually paying a premium for that Bitcoin. So anyway.
So this is where the futures market directly affects the price of Bitcoin.
Yes.
Via the mining power and the hash.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about it that way, but I think you're absolutely right. But we'll need to connect more dots next time. But that's the basic idea.
So this thing is exactly what I've been trying to figure out for a very long time. How does the futures market affect? How and why does the futures market affect the prices of Bitcoin? Because and hash power? Because to correct me if I'm wrong. So you have a futures market to bet on the difficulty and the hash power of the miners, which are the producers of Bitcoin. And when people are they are longing Bitcoin, or they think that Bitcoin will go up, and then everyone will flood into the market to be purchasing these futures, which push prices up. And because prices go up, miners see that there is an incentive for me to come in to be mining, because the future profits, although there is a trade-off in the difficulty, I don't have risk because people are buying the derivatives and people are buying the futures anyway. So more people will come in. When more people come in, it increases the hash power, because the global hash power increases, and it increases the difficulty. And
lowers the yield.
Lowers the yield, which also increases the price or reduces the price?
Well, that would reduce the price. Yeah.
But
it reduces the amount of Bitcoin you're mining per petahash of power. So, because your unit production is down.
Yeah.
So you're putting the same amount of money into generating that Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But you're getting less Bitcoin. So it's effectively like raising the price.
But because there is less Bitcoin, because each miner can only get less Bitcoin, wouldn't that drive up demand or prices of it because there's less of the supply and people are betting that Bitcoin will go up anyway. So that's already the demand side push. And then the supply side push is that you have a contractionary supply, which ultimately drives prices up again.
Yeah. Yes. So that's a great point. And I hadn't sort of completed the loop that way. So I need to think about, I need to think more about that, but I think you raise a great point and something we should try to map that out a little bit and see if we can figure out how that loop works. But the last thing I'll say is that apparently how it's, I can't ever remember, I think it has this contango. So there's there was historically been a recent history has been a big upward sloping term structure for the futures contract. And apparently in the last day or so, it's just been getting crushed. So it's just becoming much
leveling
flatter.
up.
Yeah. And I think
what does that mean?
Well, I think what's happening is because there's so much money flooding into
DeFi.
yield DeFi that it's just crushing. Basically people are chasing that yield. And one of the ways in which if you just suddenly have an exploding amount of money trying to buy up what is effectively a fixed income instrument, the price of that instrument is going to skyrocket, yield's going to go down, and that's basically what I think is happening.